Yeah, hello, we are live. So, yeah,
Um,
it's a bit of a bittersweet day.
it sucks.
um,
I woke
yeah,
up at 6 o'clock this morning, just out of habit. I mean, I've not been at work today, but habit is as a habit is. Check my phone as I always do. Check the news. What comes up? First thing I see: Akira Toriyama has died. The
Toriyama.
man, sorry, I pronounced his name wrong, but the man that gave us Dragon Ball, the man that is responsible for our childhoods, our insane love of anime and manga, the man that introduced a generation to Japanese animation and culture, a man who is responsible largely for the fact I've got a big collection of anime here on the shelf. Um, has died at 68, but by the sounds of things, in a tragic accident. I believe he fell down some stairs, or he had an accident that sadly resulted in him receiving brain damage, and he died a few days later. And it sucks. I mean, I've literally just seen a new. It was actually on the news literally 10 minutes ago, which surprised me. I didn't think local British news would even have talked about it, but no, there was a good 10-minute segment on it, and they were literally quite respectful, which says a lot. And they were interviewing people, and a lot of people were visibly upset, and were saying, this is a man who I've grown up with. His anime, his manga, it was a big part of my childhood. It still is a big part now of my adult life. And there's been a lot of sadness, and at the moment there's been like fans in Japan. They've been gathering, I believe, outside of his I don't know if you can call it a studio, but where he works, and there's just been masses of people taking pictures next to a Goku statue, which says a lot. But it's a sad day, mate. It really is. We've lost a legend of animation. We've lost a legend of a storyteller, and considering that the way Dragon Ball Super was going with the current arc, with obviously Black Frieza and Ultra Ego Vegeta, Ultra Instinct Goku, and Beast Gohan, and Orange Piccolo, and all that, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what the plan is. Is there a plan for the series to continue in his memory? Will we end it at a certain note up to maybe where he's covered? But we've lost a great man. So much. It's so sad because there's so much we're never going to see. When there's so much that I've no doubt he had planned out, and generally it is sad. In one way, and I'm being brutally honest. In many ways, I am kind of relieved that he didn't die with his legacy ending with Dragon Ball Evolution. His legacy continued in Super. His legacy continued with the God arcs, the power arcs, like everything that's going on right now. And he really gave the fans on so much over the last several years. I will raise my glass of, I think it's mint and lime cordial, because that's all I have at the moment. But to the man and the legend, Akira Toriyama, we will miss you, but we will never ever forget you. We'll always remember your anime. We'll always remember you. And I have some of your Dragon Ball films on my shelf here. So thank you for introducing me to anime. Cheers. You'll never be forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's gonna. Well, I think Akira Toriyama realized just how much of a phenomenon he created, because, to be honest, when Dragon Ball Z, which was the first kind of alliteration I remember airing back when we were kids outside of Japan. And then I think it was a bit later that they actually started to air and adapt into English language the original Dragon Ball series, and then GT came out. But yeah, it was he was a very influential person. He knew it was a big phenomenon, but he it it really started the boom.
Yeah, it did.
You know, the Dragon Ball franchise really did start the boom when it came to Japanese animation coming outside of Japan. It really started to make momentum when that happened because Toonami started about the same time, and it was Cartoon Network. Well, originally Toonami was actually Cartoon Network channel on Sky. It was a late night block. It started off as a late night block, like playing kind of foreign movies and certain animated blocks that were certainly not really meant for kids. They were more meant for teens to adults, basically. So there was on a much later date time frame. And then Toonami became its own dedicated channel, as we know. And then Adult Swim acquired Toonami, and Adult Swim went under, well, almost went under, and Toonami was lost. Toonami came back. Well, Toonami ended back in 2008, and then it came back again. It's currently going on at the moment, but it's only aired in America, unfortunately. But no, it was. I saw a post on Twitter actually, and it was Toonami had tweeted out a message to Akira Toriyama, and basically said we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, which pretty much just says everything. That it was basically Dragon Ball that became such a phenomenon that made Toonami what it was, and also really brought Japanese animation and Japanese imagination stories to the mainstream. It was one of the very first mainstream shows that really took off next to, say, Sailor Moon and Naruto and Ghost in the Shell and Bleach. You know, it really paved the way for that kind of. It really paved the way, and it's over. I mean, literally, the Dragon Ball franchise has made the Japanese government, or has made the entertainment industry. It's it's billions. It's worth billions, which just goes to show you just how much of an influence it's had on so many people. Going forward, I don't know what the plan is, but the last series Akira Toriyama I know was heavily involved in is the series that's coming out this year, or starting some point this year, which is Dragon Ball Daima. And he did the character designs, and he was also heavily involved in the writing. And it's meant to, it's supposed to be based within the realms of Super. However, it's meant to also be a standalone series. I don't think it's supposed to be a canon-related thing, or if they are going to integrate it into canon somehow, I don't know. But there has been stories, there has been talk about essentially trying to make GT canon. But GT would have to be a future thing, of course, because obviously all the like Goten and Trunks and all the kids that were kids are now fully grown adults, or they are in the latter years of going to college or something, which we see in GT, and Pan is by the end. Well, at the beginning of GT, Pan is about 10 years old. So I believe it starts off around about 10 years in the future after Majin Buu is defeated. I believe I remember rightly. So if they did want to make GT canon, they'd have to do something or change the timeline somehow. But the thing is, Super has kind of changed things as well as kept things relevant. Because Dragon Ball Super, if you obviously you've seen all Super, Sam, haven't you? So the way it starts off, there's like a montage. There's like a bit of a montage at the beginning, of like snippets of the old Dragon Ball Z series, when he's fighting Boo and fighting Frieza and fighting Cell, all the main bad guys, and then the androids and that. And basically, I believe Majin Buu is the last main big bad that that Goku and the Z Fighters fight. And I think Super's supposed to kind of be roughly. I think there's been like a time gap of about I think there's been a good time gap of about maybe 10 years of peace. There's been like a point in time where there's not been any big bads trying to
Yeah.
destroy Earth. So that's why from the end of Dragon Ball Z with the Buu saga, and then to the beginning of Super, you can see that a lot of the characters have gotten older. And obviously in that time frame, Gotenks has been born, and he's maybe about 5 or 6 years old. Pan is born during Super timeline. So you can see we're starting to approach the GT timeline now because of Pan being involved. And obviously, at the beginning of GT, as we know, Pan is 10 years old, I believe. 10 or 11 years old. When she first goes on the adventure, when Goku gets turned into a child, and then by the end, she's an old woman at the age of about, I think it's like 100 years in the future. It's like a big time skip. Goku's technically become a deity. I think he actually dies, but they're unable to bring him back. So essentially, he's like a deity. And I think Vegeta also dies as well. Because at the end, when you see that tournament of power, and you see like mini Goku and mini Vegeta, kind of like the next generation. And obviously, Pan is meant to be something like well into the 90s or something. At that point in time, so there is like a big time gap, and that's essentially how it all ends, really, with that. But GT originally wasn't actually canon because GT was actually based on a fan. It was a manga that was created by a fan of Dragon Ball Z, of a fan of Akira Toriyama's. And it's not the only sad story that's been created by a fan that has actually been turned into a manga. There's been a few versions. There's a series where Yamcha becomes the main character and actually gets development and actually becomes pretty good. There's this like a fan story where Yamcha kind of gets a little bit of help. There's all sorts of different like spin-off series that are made by fans, but the thing is, the Dragon Ball franchise will likely still keep going because there is supposed to be more super. Basically, Akira Toriyama hasn't actually really been actively involved in the Dragon Ball franchise for a while. Dragon Ball Daima, if I remember rightly, Dragon Ball Daima is the first one for quite a long time that he has heavily been involved with, both with the art design, character design, and also the story. So he was heavily involved in that story. So Akira Toriyama's name is practically all over that. Which I wasn't interested in watching, but in that series because of the whole turned into children thing again. But I am probably going to watch it now because it was the last thing Akira Toriyama probably worked on before he passed away. So, or he was still working on, and I don't know, but it's meant to be airing this year anyway, so it's probably all finished and everything. So, but yeah, he's an incredibly influential person, and he single-handedly, but single-handedly, it was his baby, it was his creation. But he has, he's really kind of been a massive inspiration for a lot of artists, both in Japan and outside Japan. He's really turned people's attention to martial arts as well. Because the Dragon Ball franchise really turned people to martial arts from being a young kid. Like they want to be Goku, they want to be Vegeta, they want to bulk themselves up. They want to be able to stand up against the bullies and all that. Which that series is part of that happening. That kind of thing, and it's a sad day. I mean, I didn't even know. I never actually read the article, to be quite honest with you. I just saw the headline that he's dead at 68, and I thought, I didn't even know he was ill. And then obviously with you saying just a moment ago that it was a horrible accident, and he ended up obviously becoming hospitalised. But yeah, it's a sad time, really. But it is a sad time. But like I said, like I was trying to lead into, basically Akira Toriyama has not actually worked on anything since maybe Kai. I think Dragon Ball Kai was the last thing he actually had some kind of involvement with the art design, I think, characters. Because Kai was basically just like a reworked version of Z. So I think Toriyama was involved in that in some respects. GT, Akira Toriyama had no involvement with whatsoever because it was a completely original thing that was created by a fan. Super Akira Toriyama did not do the manga for it. The manga's done by someone else. At least the art is. I don't know about the story, but the art is definitely not Akira Toriyama's. It's somebody else. So basically, the Dragon Ball franchise is basically being survived by two other artists. There's two other people that are very, very good at drawing the characters and are very good at coming up with new stories and new villains and new scenarios. So basically, the Dragon Ball franchise has technically been survived on through other people working at Toei or other manga artists. But Akira Toriyama hasn't actually actively done anything involved with it until now with Daima. So it's been at least 15 years that he's actually had any kind of involvement with anything, really. Yeah, he probably might have like the final approval or final say on something being approved, but that's about it. When it comes to the writing and art style, he's had hardly any involvement. He's definitely not in Super because obviously you can tell he never had any involvement in Super because of when Super first aired in the first season of Super, when we was in the Battle of Gods arc. There's like very early on, the art in the anime is terrible. Like there's some really shocking animation errors, and basically at the time is the what we got told was that Toei had put their basically it wasn't the senior artist working on it, like the good artist at Toei. Basically all I can say is that they actually put more inexperienced artists on it because everyone else were working on other stuff at the time that Toei were working on. So they're basically all the artists and the staff were stretched between projects. So basically, if you know, basically if from what's interesting is from when Dragon Ball Super first aired. When Dragon Ball Super first aired on TV, you can see the errors. Throughout mostly season one, like the first. Season one is where they're more noticeable. But after that, it seemed to rectify itself and it was a lot better. But when it came to the DVD sales, they actually redid all the animation for season one. They actually redid the animation and fixed the errors. So when it actually got released physically or on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, Toei actually fixed the problems. So yeah, it is a sad day. It is a very, very sad day, unfortunately.
It is. I grew up very much watching Dragon Ball Z. I was watching it every Wednesday afternoon at my grandma and granddad's because they had Sky, and I was literally more or less following it. Pretty much, I believe. When I started watching it, if I remember it right, it was just after or around the time Piccolo was training Gohan, and I can remember so well being about 10 years old maybe, and just the fight with the Perfect Cell, and Gohan finally unleashes his full power, goes Super Saiyan 2, and he basically beats Cell. But that moment when this character that you've been watching for about 3-4 years at this point, and you've known for all those years that this is he's a really powerful character. He just needs his chance to shine. And the moment that he goes all out Super Saiyan 2, all his rage, all of his anger, everything. And, he knows he's got to destroy Cell. He knows that he cannot hold back anymore. And just that scene encapsulates Dragon Ball so well. Because at its heart, Dragon Ball has always been about good triumphing over evil. And in many ways, that moment, that moment for me was Dragon Ball. That's my favourite moment. It's just perfection, and it's really the pinnacle of Gohan's character. Don't get me wrong. Goku's first Super Saiyan transformation is legendary. It's iconic. But with me, I was very much a Gohan fan. I think largely just because, he was that little kid that you watch grow up, and then finally you get to see him go all out. You get to see him take down the bad guy. And in many ways, that fight is much more than just Gohan breaking past his limit. It's Gohan accepting his Saiyan blood. My favourite line in that fight is the first thing Gohan says to Cell when he, decides to get serious, when 16's just being destroyed in front of him, and, bang, his mind goes, his crap gone. And the first thing he says to Cell is, I can never forgive you for what you've done. That scene, to me, has a lot of meaning, because it's basically Gohan simply saying to Cell, you've forced my hand, you've forced me to have to fight. You have forced me to do the one thing I hate. I may be a Saiyan, or half Saiyan, but I may have Saiyan blood. I may know how to fight, but I do not relish in the fight. I do not relish the violence. I don't relish it. I do not like to fight. Gohan is the pacifist. That's what I love about him. His character is very much, he is the pacifist who holds the nuclear button. That's the way I look at him. Gohan is literally especially, as an adult, he is a man who just wants to raise his children, get on with life. He doesn't really want to be a fighter. And when he was a child, he was thrown into situations that a child would naturally struggle with. And throughout his life, Gohan knows he's powerful. He knows he has power, but a part of him doesn't want to use it. And that's, I think, why I've always liked Gohan, because in a way, it kind of reminds me of myself a bit. I don't really like violence. And when I look at Gohan, and as I say, if you look at him as a pacifist with a nuclear button, he's literally given that button. He's literally said, here's a nuclear button. Gohan, you press this thing, all the power in the world will be yours. But you could also destroy that world. And that's the beauty of it. Gohan, the pacifist, has to basically do the one thing that he just doesn't like. He has to fight, and he has to kill. And when he goes Super Saiyan 2 for that first time, when he finally lets it all go, God, is he brutal? He just wipes the Cell Juniors in seconds. He just destroys them to the point where there's nothing. He just hits them, bang, turns them into dust and destroys them. And then, after that, he doesn't just fight Cell. He tortures him. He punishes him. And, you're seeing this young boy, this child who, you've seen grow up, go from a shy, unconfident fighter to a strong fighter who is willing to fight evil and knows he has to not just fight, but he has to destroy this evil being. And that is, as I say, is the message of Dragon Ball. Good versus evil, and just all about being loyal and sticking up for each other and just generally being a strong person for those around you and to not let evil win. And that's Dragon Ball. And I think that's why Dragon Ball has had such an effect, because it's such a positive message. Plus it has really cool fight scenes. But that's what I have to say.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, there is some really iconic parts. I mean, that is one of my favourite parts. I mean, to be honest, that goes down as one of the most badass in anime history. There is some really badass fight moments or stands, some really badass moments in anything, not just Dragon Ball, but in everything. But the whole thing with Gohan against Cell is the thing, and you see, like as you said, 16 gets crushed, and then you basically just kind of see the rage building up in Gohan, and then I love that moment. They don't do it as much in Super, but that moment where you see that kind of like that thing go right through his head, kind of thing,
Yeah,
like
the red line.
the red line, like you see with Goku with on Namek against Frieza as well, and you just kind of see all of that, and then it's just fucking brilliant. It is brilliant because it's just iconic, and also like another Gohan thing where he fights. Is it Ultimate Gohan? Or is it
Boo.
the boy becomes Ultimate? No, Boo. Yeah, Boo. Sorry.
Yeah, Ultimate Gohan versus Boo, which again, I love. Again, Ultimate Gohan's great because it's like the first time you really see Gohan be, in a lot of ways, almost like a full Saiyan because he's like cocky as anything. He literally shows up, smug look on his face, like he's the smuggest guy in the shop, and he just walks up to Boo, looks him in the eyes, and just tells him, "I'm going to kill you." And it's just like, whoa, Gohan just grown some balls because he's basically here for a fight.
Yeah. I mean, that is just awesome because, like I say, it's just, I think I prefer the Kai version of that, though. Because obviously in the original series, he kind of just says something else, but they actually obviously they redubbed it, the redubbed Kai. And a lot of the dialogue was, some of the dialogue was changed enough, but not too much, but it was basically, perfect. And I love the Dragon Ball Kai version of that, where Gohan arrives from training and that, and he just kind of like, Boo says something to him, and he just goes, "No, I'm just going to kill you," kind of thing, and it's just that grin on his face, and he's just like, "Fuck yeah!" Unfortunately, he gets absorbed though, but it is still badass. I mean, like I say, I'm just really hoping because, like I say, I'm all caught up with Super now, thanks that the BBC it's all an iPlayer at the moment. So I managed to catch up. I think I was watching where I left off. Last time I watched it was the Goku Black saga. So it was when Goku and Vegeta went back to Future Trunks' timeline, and they met Mai and everything, and so that was where roughly I watched up to before I stopped, and something else took my focus. But yeah, I'm finally all caught up now, so it's kind of like waiting to see if we do get that continuation. I don't know why they decided to do Daima. I don't know why that was a thing, but like I say, it was Akira Toriyama's creation. It's like a. I don't think it's supposed to be canon, even though it is technically canon because it's a part of the Super timeline. Because the art style is very Super-esque, but yeah, it's Akira Toriyama's artwork and story. So, I mean, I think we will get a continuation because it's all the manga's done. I don't know. I think is the manga still ongoing or is it finished? Does anyone? Do you know?
What, Super?
Super manga.
At the moment, I think no, it's continuing. No, because they've finished. It sort of finished at sort of Black Frieza showing up, and now it's continued again, and it's now going into. At the moment, it's covering Gohan Beast mode. It's like new Beast form, and he's basically currently fighting Goku, who's doing his Master Ultra Instinct. And there's a lot of stuff being talked about that we're potentially going to see a lot more of what Gohan's now capable of. There's sort of a running fan theory that Gohan's new power maybe what's needed to defeat Black Frieza. At least that's the theory.
Okay. Yeah, because like I say, I mean, I haven't read the manga, to be honest. Plus, it's way too much manga to really even read. I mean, and it'll probably take me. I'm probably about 70 years old when I finally catch up with the manga, with the speed I read, anyway. But no, it's like a lot. Obviously, a lot of people, because obviously, there's a bad guy called, is it Mora?
Yeah.
That fans really would love to see in animation, in an anime adaptation of, because he was fucking good. He was strong. Also, would like to see a return of Jiren as well. I don't know if he returns as a ally or possibly just a combat friend to Goku. I don't know. But I did like Jiren though. I thought that felt more like Dragon Ball Z. That I mean, Super is very hit and miss. A lot of Dragon Ball fans kind of zoned off with Super. What I don't understand is why they adapted the two films into episodic episodes in the series. I don't know why they just did. I don't know why they decided to do that. Because it kind of takes you out of it, because you're like, we've already seen all this. But yeah, but when it was televised, it's not like you can skip forward like you can streaming something. Like the full series is up, you can just skip to the point where you want to watch from. When it's airing, it's a different thing. You've literally got weeks and weeks and weeks, like episodes to go through until you get to past what happened in the film. That's the only thing I don't like about Super, is mostly the incorporation of the Battle of Z. Is it Battle of Gods and Resurrection F? I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with kind of like mentioning it so that it is still canon, but the fact is they basically gave us Battle of Gods and Resurrection F again, but in series format, and there was some subtle changes as well compared to the film to the series. Like basically Captain Ginyu actually comes into it again, as the frog. Somehow he kind of like comes into the series. I don't think he's in the film, but he's in the series. Or if he is, he's not as involved. So there was like really weird things like that where I was like, well, I don't understand why you've changed it ever so slightly, because Resurrection F and both Battle of Gods were both fantastic films, but yet they were kind of reworked into the series to make them canon. But what's interesting about the whole Beast Gohan thing, Beast Gohan and Orange Piccolo and everything. Now, Akira Toriyama actually came out and said that that film's not canon, but now it is canon. So this is the thing. Akira Toriyama was well known for actually trolling the fans.
Yeah.
He very much enjoyed causing rage on Twitter, which kind of just says the kind of maybe sense of humor the guy had. Because when you're obviously for hearing of like the working conditions for a lot of working conditions for a lot of manga artists, or mangakas as they're called in Japan, very long hours, very grueling hours. So where do you get your outlay out? Do you kind of like just like take to Twitter like Akira Toriyama used to? I don't know. It's just, but no, it's a sad day. It really is. It's like I say, he was still relatively, he was old, but he wasn't real old. 68. It's but it's sad. It is. Like I say, Dragon Ball. I believe Dragon Ball was the third most popular franchise in Japan. The first is One Piece. One Piece is like the number one thing in Japan, period. Second is Evangelion, or at least it used to be. And then third is Dragon Ball. And then fourth was Naruto. I believe Naruto is very popular in Japan, but I think it's changed because there's a series called Juju Kaisen or something Kaisen, Jujutsu Kaisen or something like that. That's really popular in Japan, also outside. So I don't know where that stands in popularity, but I know One Piece is number top. It's top, and Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball was certainly up there as well, alongside One Piece. Um, yeah, it's a shame, but like I say, I mean, I think it's going to continue, but the way the Japanese are, they're a little bit different with how things go. Unless Akira Toriyama technically has sold the rights off, so before he passed away, maybe because obviously other people have kind of taken over Dragon Ball. Like Akira Toriyama's not really had much involvement for a while. Within recent years, except for Daima coming out. Yeah, it's just sad. Oh, Alpha Prime's here. Hello, Alpha. How you doing? Alpha Prime. Hey guys, have I missed it? What have I missed? Oh, basically, we're just talking about Akira Toriyama. He's got it. Alpha Prime. Sad news with Akira, isn't it? Yeah, that's what we're basically just talking about Akira Toriyama and real badass moments in the anime, like with Gohan and with Goku, and talking about like what we think is going to happen going forward with the Dragon Ball franchise. Because it recently, obviously, this is obviously well before Akira passed, or Toriyama passed, should I say. But apparently there's about 10 years, the future proofed it for about 10 years of stories of Dragon Ball still. So that was actually kind of officially announced through Toei, and I believe Akira Toriyama also tweeted that out as well. So I believe there is still a plan base there for like another 10 years of Dragon Ball, both manga, anime, movies, everything. So, but with Akira's passing, that might change. I don't know, because the reason why I say that is because look what happened with High School of Dead. Another prime example. One half, I believe it was the writer that passed away. Getting mixed up, but one of them basically one of them passed away, and he ended up passing away, and they never actually finished the manga, and of course there was an anime out, and never got a green light for a season 2 because there was no more manga coming out.
Yeah, they could have done a season 2. I mean, there's enough manga to do at least 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, there's
High School of the Dead. I mean, I've got the actual collector sets, like the full color hardback collector sets they did, and that literally, if you go through all of that, season 1 is pretty much covered. Season 2, there is enough source material in part 2 of the manga to do a season 2 of the anime, so they could have done season 2.
Well, yeah, they could have easily done a season 2. Yeah, they could have done, but it's unfortunate. But what they did is because of Japanese custom, when somebody passes away, like here, if somebody was known for something, either an author or a musician, anything. Look what they're doing with Chester at the moment. Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. Look what they're doing with him, like unreleased songs of his that he worked on that they never released before, and they slowly but surely over the years and anniversaries of albums and that they are releasing new bonus tracks, and they are fantastic. And so that's the Western culture, though. We think about that kind of thing of they left a legacy. Why don't we try and carry it going in their memory? Which you do see a lot of when this happens. But in Japan, it's a different way of thinking. In Japan, it sometimes is more like it's more disrespectful to continue the work after they've passed, and they more shy away from that approach. At least that was what was mentioned around the time of High School of the Dead, technically being indefinite cancellation. I mean, I'm really hoping maybe Netflix maybe gets High School of the Dead, puts it up on Netflix, and they somehow make a deal and produce season 2, or at least finish it off, produced through Netflix. I mean, it's not happening. I can't say that's impossible because thanks to Netflix, we've actually got multiple seasons of a series that there was nothing in development for a long time. For some titles, like there's a lot of like one season wonders that were incredible that never got a continuation. And recently, we've been getting a lot of classic, really influential anime series finally getting that continuation, thanks to say like Prime Video and Netflix. So I do see some relevance within them streaming services, especially Netflix, because they're very heavily going into anime, and not just anime, but Japanese and Korean TV as well. I need to check out some stuff. I want to check out Zom 100, the live action film. I've finished the series. I finished Zom 100, the anime series, and it's fucking brilliant. You need to watch it, Sam. You know you love your zombies. It's like a breath of fresh air of the whole zombie approach. It is just so good. It's basically High School of the Dead, but if you was on acid while watching it. That's all I can say. If you had taken acid the moment you put on High School of the Dead, it's likely how you would perceive it going on in your head.
Okay.
So now you're going to have to go and watch it now because I suppose you are quite interested there. But yeah, Zone 100 is really good. Anyway, so let's catch up with the chat here. Alpha again. I grew up with Dragon Ball Z on Cartoon Network. Absolutely fell in love with the show. The same here. I mean, I used to come home from school. I used to come home from school and had a shit day, and I used to watch the Toonami block, which was through Cartoon Network. I used to watch the Big O, Gundam Wing. Dragon Ball Z was part of that, Cowboy Bebop as well. Some really great shows, and me and Sam pretty much grew up with the same TV. So to be honest, I got some of
the actual same TV, mate. We grew up the literal same television.
Well, no, and what I mean is that I was saying we grew up with the same type of TV, as in what was on TV.
Well, no, your TV was probably way better than the one I had.
Probably, but we grew up with the same stuff that was being shown on the TV.
Same shows and things, yeah.
Yes. And all I'm going to say is Sailor Moon got me into black-haired girls. Sailor Mars for fucking ever. Sorry, Sailor Mars is better in every way. Anyways, let's move on. Alpha Prime says, that's good, I suppose. They will probably round off the Dragon Ball series with the new Super series coming out. Yeah, well, the thing is that what's coming out at the moment is there's a series called Dragon Ball Daima. Dragon Ball Daima is, I believe, an original story that Akira Toriyama both worked on art and story-wise. And it's the first series he's actually actively been involved in for quite a long time. So there is supposed to, like I said, the future-proof the Dragon Ball franchise for another 10 years, at least. But with Akira passing, that might change things. We might finally get a continuation to Super soon, after Daima's finished. Daima's supposed to be, like I said, an original story, which means it's more of an OVA. It's like an OAV. Yeah, but there's OVA and OAV, which technically is similar kind of abbreviation, but they mean two different things. OVA being original video animation, whatever. and OAV is So basically, So it's basically like an original story. But I'm really hoping we do get a continuation to Super because I really want to see what goes on after the whole Jiren and the battle for the universes has been concluded. I mean, and I am aware of the whole Black Freezer thing, and I'm very aware of the whole Moro arc as well, which is a big fan favorite from the manga. So I am very much intrigued to see if we will finally get a continuation to any of that. Just look how the MCU has gone since Stan Lee's passing and running out of his notes. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, I mean, I don't know. Stan Lee was involved, but more for cameos. I don't. They were essentially. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He most likely was an advisor as well. He most likely was an advisor to them. But yeah, ever since he passed away, it has certainly gone down in quality. But fingers crossed, everybody. Deadpool 3. Deadpool 3 will be the renaissance of it all.
Deadpool 3 will be pretty much the only Marvel film to make any money. Because all the others that have come out pretty much after No Way Home have not really been successful. I mean, The Marvels was a massive box office flop. Madame Web, massive box office flop. And at the moment, it's generally being sort of believed that Deadpool 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine will do really, really well because everybody's quite generally really excited for it. But then after that, a lot of the stuff that's coming out, a lot of people either aren't interested in or there just probably isn't going to be a great story behind it. I mean, for example, the Blade remake, that's been hit with problem after problem after problem. They've had directors leave, producers leave. I think the script's been rewritten about 5 times. So, Marvel's really lost its edge. The last jewel in the MCU crown, at least as my opinion, was Spider-Man No Way Home. After that, because that was the last film that made a billion plus, it made 1.3 billion. It was the last film in the Marvel roster that packed out cinemas, and after that, it's just been declining ever since.
Yeah.
And at the moment, there's even debate going on about what's going to happen with the Kang Dynasty storyline, because obviously, I forget his name, but the actor who played Kang, he's in prison now. So they're either going to recast him, which technically they could do because he is a multiversal being, but the other rumour going around is that they're going to just get rid of Kang altogether and do Doctor Doom, which is possible because the Fantastic Four film's out, is it next year? So, it's possible that might be the plan. But then you then have to ignore everything that they've done with basically No Way Home, Loki, no doubt everything that will happen in Deadpool 3, because all that's tied into the multiverse. So, if they're going to throw that out the window, then they're literally going to have to undo the last sort of 3-ish years of storytelling.
Yeah, well, apparently what's interesting with Deadpool 3 is still... apparently, Deadpool 3 is set after Loki Season 2. So it is still within the canon confines. But apparently, if you've watched the trailer, they are quite obviously doing one of them to Disney and to all the execs behind it. And they are quite happily, and quite, as you can see by the trailer, that they are essentially kind of going forward. Deadpool 3 is probably going to be the renaissance that it needs in order to get back to the quality that there was back when it started. I think what's happened is that Disney's obviously been gone through different bloody chairmans and different CEOs, and like one guy that was let go has come back again. Is it Bob Iger or something? His name? It's all a fucking mess. They're struggling because Disney Plus is losing subscribers by the thousands. because people are only kind of tuning in to watch maybe the odd thing and then gone again. But yeah, it's a bad time. It really is. Hey, Lawrence is here. Geeky Trainer Lawrence. He says, hi, guys.
Lawrence.
He says, love Dragon Ball. Been playing one of the games. Nice one. Some of the games are fantastic. One of my favorites is a game called Best Limits. Best Limit, which was on the PS3. And there's another one as well I really like. I've forgotten the name of now, but Dragon Ball Z Fighters. That's another good one. Yeah. And then he says, I love Sailor Moon. Venus was my favorite. I can see where you're going with that, my friend. I can see where you're going with that. Venus was indeed very nice, but you cannot deny Sailor Mars. And Sam's going to go and say he likes Sailor Moon because Sam always seems to have the title.
The voices of Vegeta and Goku, the dubbed voices, have just given their condolences and basically released a statement.
Okay, I saw a tweet from Brian Drummond, who was the Ocean dub Vegeta, and also played Ryuk in Death Note. He did Death Note for me at the TFN when he came. He did Ryuk for me, and I was like, I'm a big fan of you, and I love Death Note. I love what you did with Ryuk, however you want to pronounce him, and he just went, oh, thank you. And he just went into the whole Ryuk thing. I was just like, proper fanboy. But anyway, so yeah, Brian Drummond's done a condolence message to him on Twitter as well. I haven't seen anything from Sean Schimmel or Chris Sabat yet, unless that's all you were talking about. But I haven't seen anything from them yet. Right. Alpha. I believe he advised and kept the stories together, Stanley. Yeah, okay. Most likely did, because when Stanley was alive, they were a lot better. A lot better than what they are at the moment. Alpha, I just had no interest in Marvels, in the Marvels or Madam Web. Seen the ads. Yeah, I cannot wait until it's on Disney Plus. Yeah, I haven't watched the Marvels yet, but even though they're not very good, I want to try and keep up with what's going on, because I know things are changing. What they were currently working towards is likely going to be scrapped, or they're probably just going to recast. I think it was Jonathan Majors you're talking about, Sam. The guy who played Kang, whatever his name was. I think it was a guy called Jonathan Majors, I believe, the actor, that got arrested. So yeah, so I have been looking into that debate though. I've been watching a guy called Emergency Awesome. He does some really good videos talking about stuff like this, and he basically has been talking about all that stuff, and it's kind of interesting that it's looking like they probably are still going to do the Kang Dynasty, what they're working towards now, but they're likely just going to simply just recast Jonathan Majors to a different actor. I think it's still going to happen, but they've had to push everything back because of that. So a lot of stuff's been pushed back, but that's why literally Deadpool's the only film out this year for Marvel. But that's a good thing, because there's no other competition. There's nothing else for Deadpool to rad up against. So it's the perfect opportunity for that renaissance and for Disney to sit up and listen and hopefully improve. Otherwise, they're just gonna. I can see Disney going bye-bye.
I can't see Disney sort of imploding or anything, but I do think Disney. I mean, don't forget, Disney's literally got hundreds, if not thousands, of studios linked to it, so it's making money all the time.
Oh yeah,
but I do think the MCU is going to potentially crash and burn if they don't really start pulling a finger out.
Yeah.
I mean, is there even any plans to go past Secret Wars? Because like Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, I believe, are the next two big films. I mean, after that, what's the plan?
I don't know.
You can't keep it going forever because a lot of people just aren't interested anymore.
And like I say, I mean, at the moment, the only bit that is still getting people's bums on seats is Spider-Man. You know, the Spider-Man films with Tom Holland, they are still the films that are, you know, obviously that they're much better produced and brilliant compared to what we've seen since. But they need to start listening because, like I said at the beginning, when the whole MCU thing started, you can definitely see they were definitely taking viewpoints from the source material. With like Iron Man, for instance, you know, the Iron Man film, the first two, okay, third one, not as good. It's okay, but it's not as good. But anyway, so Iron Man was brilliant. The casting choice was fantastic. You know, Robert Downey Jr. was fantastic as Tony. But you know, coming off of that, it's kind of like, you know, then Captain America, Chris Evans, fantastic, and then you've got, you know, it's just the casting choices were great, but I think they started going downhill a little bit with the Thor films. I think they screwed up massively with Thor. Even though I've got nothing against Chris Hemsworth playing him, I think he plays Thor well. I've got nothing wrong with Chris Hemsworth as Thor. That's not what I'm trying to say there. It's just the storytelling and everything hasn't been as good compared to, say, Captain America or Iron Man, or same with a solo film for Black Widow. That was just a trailer shit, piece of shit. That was just, I mean, Taskmaster was made a woman. And Taskmaster is a male character. And Taskmaster, I believe, is a Spider-Man villain. I believe.
I think Taskmaster shows up a lot throughout the Marvel sort of universe.
Yeah,
the funny thing is, mate, Taskmaster, on filming, right? Almost all of the Taskmaster scenes were actually done by a professional stuntman who was like, you know, full-on martial artist.
Yeah.
The lady that sort of played the character, or should I say, was revealed when, you know, the helmet came off. She was only on set for a day. Like, literally, they just did a load of head scans, did a bit of filming, and that was it. So really, a lot of people were kind of struggling to point out she was never really playing Taskmaster. She was just, you know, she was the face behind the mask, effectively, but she wasn't the actor playing the character.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It was obviously two actors, basically. It was two people performing. It's basically like the whole Vader thing, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, even though Vader's a much better character, of course, but you know, obviously Vader is two people. You know, it was made famous by a British, you know, an English bodybuilder that was in the suit, and then James L. Jones that did the iconic voice. You know, and then obviously, but look at Boba Fett. That, I think 3 people was Boba Fett. There was one person that was in the suit, one person that was the original voice, and then obviously the guy Tamora Morrison took over from the whole clone trooper thing. Yeah, the clone troopers and Jango Fett and Boba Fett was whatever his name is, Morrison. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, you can definitely tell they are not losing interest, but I would say they are losing their way. They don't. It's like it's almost as if the writers that have got writing on this do not really know what Marvel is, or they've never really been.
I don't really want to kind of get too deeply into this, mate, but the reason why Marvel's gone the way it has, the reason why it's sort of very lackluster now, and the storytelling's not great, and it's really kind of killing itself. I don't particularly want to get political. It's political's the wrong way, but I don't really want to get into this in a deep way. But the real reason is because they've decided to sort of up the diversity inclusion. That's the problem. Now, I don't mean that in a negative way, because diversity and inclusion is literally what's built the cinema industry. When you go back to the 1920s, there were black actors, there were female actors, all of that stuff. They were there in the early days building the film industry. The problem is Marvel is sacrificing good storytelling for the strong woman message. And as a result, you're getting all these characters that don't have a hero's journey, don't have a well-written story, don't have a good origin story. They're just there and they can do anything because they've decided that we need strong female characters for the modern audience, so modern women will come and see these films. Now, I am not saying that, as a typical 30-year-old white bloke that I have an issue with female leads. I certainly don't. A lot of my favourite films are female leads. I mean, look at Terminator 2 as an example, one of the greatest action sequels ever made. Look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was the biggest series to come out in the 90s. I mean, I grew up watching that, and it's an incredibly diverse series. You've got a lead character, female character, you've got gay characters, you've got, black characters, you've got men, women, it's a very diverse cast. The problem is diversity doesn't mean sacrificing story. You can write a really good story and have loads of different characters in it, and it's still going to be great. Marvel at the moment seem heavily focused on putting young female actors into these films. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But the issue is a lot of these young female actors, they're very drawn in by, the message of all this diversity stuff. And they go into these films that just aren't very well made. They don't shut up about how, we're about representing women everywhere. And then the film flops, they kick off, rant and rage, blame men. And the biggest issue is right now, Marvel are basically cutting out 60% of their audience, because it's estimated roughly 60% of the audience for like a Marvel film is male. 40% is female. And again, I'm not saying that as in any sexist way. I'm just simply saying that statistically, more men than women go and see Marvel films. Yeah, you get female Marvel fans, of course you do, but from a film perspective, from ticket sale perspectives, your primary audience is men. And if you're going to, flip off that audience and tell them basically not to go and see the film, your film's going to fail. And that's basically what's happening. They need to stop with all that crap, go back to the formula of when the MCU was good, so like the first 10-ish years of that, and then that's it. Just look at what made, Infinity War and Endgame so good. What made Spider-Man No Way Home so good. Look at all the films that hit $1 billion, bring back the people that wrote those films, and I guarantee they'll start having success and they'll start making money again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is also there was much better directors as well. There was a lot. I'm not saying the directors that have directed. You don't know what the terms they were working under with a lot of the more recent stuff. Because, like I say, you've heard of the whole MGM debate, haven't you, with the Terminator franchise, with and not just that, but also the RoboCop remake as well, where basically they appointed a director. He was literally just a name. He had no creative control whatsoever over the guy for the RoboCop remake film, and also Terminator Salvation and everything afterwards. Those films, obviously, MGM were practically like they basically wrote what they basically said. Right, this is what we want. Make it happen. Do it. You're the director, but this is what we want to be. This is what we want, and we got a complete piece of shit films for both. Even though I don't mind the reboot RoboCop film, but it's interesting to see RoboCop in like a futuristic setting, like as in now. As a film, it doesn't stand up to the original. No, the original RoboCop is brilliant. Of course, it is, but I still have a soft spot for the reboot, even though I feel if the director had more involvement, I think we would have got a much more faithful adaptation. I really do. But it was because MGM were pushing for this complete change, flip reversal, and the director had no choice but to go with it or just walk from the job. You know.
I can't remember which Terminator film it was. It was either Genesis or Dark Fate. I honestly can't remember which. I think it might have been Dark Fate. But I remember one of those two films, obviously both Genesis and Dark Fate just flopped at the cinema. They didn't do well at all. And I remember one of those films, James Cameron pretty much endorsed one of those films. Like, he actually would do an interview where he was basically saying, this is the film Terminator fans will want to go and see. And it sort of shortly after the film's released, he basically turned around and fully admitted that he was paid to basically positively say the film was great. But he actually admitted that, I actually didn't like the film at all. Like, he had almost no involvement in it at all. Like, they put him in as, like, being a producer for it and sort of tried to make out that, he's involved, this is Terminator's coming back type of thing. And it turned out he was, like, on set for maybe 2 or 3 days and had almost no involvement with anything. They just tried to make it, like, try and sell it as if to say James Cameron's back with Terminator and this is what Terminator's all about. I mean, I know at the moment there's a lot of ongoing debate about Terminator and whether or not there's going to be another film. Apparently, there's talks about it, but if they do another Terminator film in the next few years, it needs to be something fresh and original. So don't bring back Arnie. I know Arnie's iconic, but we don't need Arnie in another Terminator film. Don't try and tell the same story of, Terminator gone back in time to kill somebody. Don't try and remake the original. Try and tell an entirely different story. I don't know. Try and tell a story maybe set in like the early years of the war, like a couple of years after Judgment Day. Maybe show us like humanity before John Connor, like scattered, surviving, starving, fighting for survival, and then one day these mysterious, maybe like early machines, like very early Terminators or something, show up, and slowly word gets out about Skynet, and maybe as the film progresses, we come across a band of the fragments of the military, let's say, they've banded together and they're trying to save what's left of humanity, and then I don't know, maybe the film, and then we could go down a route of a young Kyle Reese being broken out of a Skynet in prison camp, because in the first film, where he's actually talking to Sarah about the war, you learn that he was actually in one of Skynet's basically death camps effectively, and that he was rescued by the Resistance, and the person that led the assault on the base that rescued him was effectively John Connor. It was a younger John Connor before he became the leader. So what if we were down that route, and the final part of the scene is a big attack on a Skynet facility to save a couple of hundred human survivors, and part of that involves a young soldier, saving a load of civilians, taking out a load of early Terminators, and at the end of it, maybe there's a thing, like some top-notch guy talking about this team called TechCom, this new team they've got put together, and it's like, do we know who's leading it? It's this new guy, who goes by the name of Connor. He's definitely the type of guy we need, something like that. Like, tell a story that hasn't been told yet. Don't do the typical time travel stuff, or try and do some twisty time travel alternative future thing, or even do a remake. As I said, do a story we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't know. it's a bit of a mess of affairs at the moment. It really is. I mean, but anyway, let's continue on with the comments here. Alpha says there is just too many characters in Madam Web. I think they could have done it way better by focusing on her solely as a character without all those accomplices, but just dilutes her story for me. Yeah, I've not seen it. The thing is as well. What's interesting is it's Sony's Marvel.
Mm.
It's Sony's thing. So even though Madam Web is obviously part of the MCU, but that film, I believe, is meant to be separate anyways. So I don't think we have to really worry too much about it causing a problem for the timeline that they're currently working for.
No, I know what Alpha's saying. It's
the only character that is linked both to the MCU and to Sony is Spider-Man. So that's the only character that we have to really think about. But Madam Web, I know of her. I know there's Spider-Gwen. I'd love a Spider-Gwen film.
Apparently they're going to do it because they did announce recently that they are actually going to do a live-action Miles Morales film, like Spider-Man, Miles Morales. So we could see a live-action Spider-Gwen, or as she's known in the comics, Ghost Spider. We could potentially see it.
Well, exactly. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see because, like I say, there's Madam Web, but the thing is they messed up with Madam Web as well with the casting choice. Because I believe is Madam Web supposed to be an older woman?
She's basically meant to appear as like an elderly-ish woman. She basically lives in a pocket dimension. Yeah. She's a bit like Professor Xavier, Professor X. She's got like a lot of like psychic and telepathic powers and things, and she lives in like this little pocket dimension, and she sort of aids Spider-Man now and then. So in a lot of ways, the way they did it, they were sort of trying to modernize the concepts, which really doesn't work, considering the character's meant to be a sort of dimensional being. It doesn't work the way they did it. I know a bit about the plot of the film, although I haven't actually seen it.
Okay. All right, so Alpha again, he says, X-Men definitely needed in the MCU. Yep.
They've actually hinted at that, haven't they? Because the Marvels has a end credit scene, which basically brings in the X-Men.
I haven't actually seen the Marvels yet, so
I haven't. I just know about the end credit scene because it literally brings in the X-Men. So, they potentially are bringing the X-Men into the MCU at some point.
And also, Deadpool 3 is heavily doing that because there is obviously more than just Wolverine in there.
But they pretty much confirmed that Deadpool 3 is just going to be like a massive timeline, dimension-hopping film, and we're going to see a lot of iconic characters.
Well, what's interesting is they brought Pyro back.
Mm.
They brought Pyro back, and there's another character in the trailer as well. I've forgotten the name, but Pyro's back, and it's the actual actor that played in the other X-Men films, live-action films. Now, I don't know what's going on because I have heard that they've approached the Fox cast again that played the X-Men, the younger versions and everything. So Storm and so on. And so it's not just Hugh Jackman that's been kind of approached to return as Wolverine, as Logan. But there is meant to be more than one. Obviously, there's more than one variant of Wolverine in the film, apparently. There's one, is it called Patch or something? It's basically a variant of Wolverine, but he wears a eye patch over one eye. I don't know that version of him, to be honest. I haven't really read any of the comics, so I don't really know. But there's meant to be more than one version of Wolverine. There's the one that's where he's in the blue and yellow suit, as we see in the trailer. But there's meant to be another version, another variant of Wolverine that's potentially probably the one of the bad guys, or I don't know, the Deadpool or someone has to deal with. But Pyro's in there as well. But I'm really looking forward to Deadpool 3. I mean, it's this film's been fucking hell. We've been waiting for this for a fucking while. Because, like I said, it was unsure whether it was going to happen. Ryan Reynolds and everyone's been fighting for it to happen. And we finally got it. And we finally got, is it an R rating? I believe it's R rated. So we're finally getting what we need. And Deadpool needs to be either an R or an 18 or whatever. It needs to be bloody. Because that's the whole point of Deadpool. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Deadpool 3. I mean, it's a Deadpool 3 is supposed to be the push, and we're finally going to get the X-Men starting to come in after Deadpool 3. I think that's how influential Deadpool 3 is in the timeline at the moment. Alpha again, they just need to get back to making awesome movies instead of catering for the in trends. Yep, exactly, 100%. So Lawrence says, "Hi Sam, just wondering, do you know if you are coming to TFN yet?"
I'm not sure yet. I mean, if I can get the time off, yeah, I'll just see what happens at the moment with that.
Alpha again says, "Spidey is awesome. Not biased at all with my opinion." No, everyone, come on. I think most people like Spider-Man. I mean,
I grew up with Spider-Man.
I think a fair few generations have grown up with Spider-Man, Sam. I mean, the character's been around a while. Definitely. But Alpha says, Love and Thunder was just not good. My favourite fourth film movie is... I actually like Ragnarok.
Ragnarok's like the crown jewel of the Thor films. Like, the first one isn't very good. Yeah. The second one's okay. The third one's fantastic. And then the fourth one's just not particularly great. So the only thing in that film, right, that I like in Love and Thunder is Christian Bale. I think he plays his part incredibly well. But that's about it.
Yeah, to be honest...
many jokes. Like, my least favourite part about Ragnarok was he kept on repeating the same jokes over and over again. Yeah. Like with Mjolnir, with Thor's hammer. He just kept doing the same joke with that throughout the film. It's got boring after 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's... But yeah, it's... I would have to say Ragnarok's my favourite of the 4 films. It still has its problems, but it's more entertaining. But then Love and Thunder, the only thing I like about Love and Thunder is the beginning fight scene, where basically you see Thor on that planet with the Guardians, and then you basically kind of like see him take out those hordes of enemies, like without any second thought, just doing all this really awesome stuff to like a music montage. That's literally the only scene I like in that entire film. Everything else, I mean, look at Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe's character was fucking just a joke. Yeah, just a fucking joke. And that character that he was playing is fucking powerful. He's a fucking god for crying out loud. But yeah, they made him just like this fat, stupid prat. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway. Alpha Prime says, completely agree with Sam with Terminator. Yeah, I do as well. To be honest, there is meant to be another Terminator film coming out. I've heard. I'm not.
Yeah, really... it's been talked about. Yeah.
I mean, there is meant to be one coming out. I mean, so I've heard anyway. There's meant to be one coming out, but the problem is for me is you can't really go forward because they've killed John Connor in Dark Fate.
Well, technically, to get not be a little sort of argumentative with that, technically it doesn't really count because Dark Fate's meant to be a alternative kind of story. Even though technically killing John Connor at the start of that film makes absolutely zero sense. No. It's just like a massive, it makes no sense. I just loving that in the opening scene, how, the Terminator just walks up to John Connor and shoots him dead. It's like nobody reacts to the fact that this big muscular man's walking down the beach with a bloody shotgun. Like, nobody reacts. It's really, really poorly done.
Oh.
All right, let me have a look anyway. Terminator franchise. Have we got anything announced or anything known about? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah,
bloody hell, Dark Fate only came out about 5-ish years ago, so not that long. I don't think there's any information really about a possible continuation. Last update, it was later reported in May 23 that Cameron was developing a script for a Terminator reboot, which was the last thing we heard about that was last year. I'd hate it if they rebooted Terminator. It's a classic film. You do not want to reboot that. I mean, you know, some of the films that they're rebooting at the moment, they don't need to, like The Crow. The Crow remake's coming out in like 3 months, and people are spitting venom about it because they just don't like the look of that film. Like, they're already saying, like, the new look, like the way they're doing The Crow, that they're making, like, Eric Draven in this remake. Everyone's saying it looks like a knockoff of the Joker. It's, you know, it doesn't look right. Yeah. And I know that's out in 3 months, and there's not even a trailer yet, so we'll see whether or not they're going to release one.
I haven't seen it.
And then after that, the remake in Highlander, which is a film they just don't need the remake. The only thing about that remake that I'm kind of happy about is that Henry Cavill's involved in it, and he's playing the main character. And again, Henry Cavill's a big nerd, so you never know. It might be a good remake.
And also, we might be getting well, thanks to Henry Cavill, we'll be getting a Warhammer film.
Yeah,
getting a Warhammer series or something, or through Prime. So it's interesting, isn't it? He gets sacked as probably being one of the most successful actors to play Superman, and then he gets the job in playing what the fucking hell's he called in
Garrett, not about Witcher.
Yep, The Witcher. You know, he gets that role, and then he leaves that role because, you know, and then, you know, then he gets the opportunity to essentially kind of create one of his passion things as a live action film or a series, and that's going forward. And, you know, I really do like Henry Cavill. You know, he might be an A-list actor at the moment, but he's a top guy. He really is a top guy.
There's barely any information about the remake of The Crow. Like, it doesn't have a big budget. It's 50 million. Release date's June this year. But there's barely any info that's coming up. Like, it's not even listing any of the other sort of characters. Like, so far, the only cast they have announced is Bill Skarsgård as obviously Eric Draven, The Crow. FKA Twigs, Shelley Webster, obviously his fiance, who's obviously killed at the start of the film along with him. And then somebody, Isabel Way as Zadie. And that's it. So they've only announced like 3 of the actors in this film. The film's out in 3 months, and there's barely anything being released about it. I mean, why do I get the feeling this film's just going to flow through the cinemas unnoticed? Like, no one will go and see it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that.
FK Twigs, anyway. Who's that? I've never heard of her.
Well, I've since I heard about this news of The Crow being remade, I've just said sorry straight away before even seeing anything or who's playing who. No, I actively say I am not going to watch that film. Not ever, nowhere.
Right. Sorry, mate. Sorry for interrupting, but okay. So FK Twigs is a singer. I've never heard of her. She's apparently a British singer. I've never heard of her. she's never done any film work at all, and yet she's been cast in the remake of The Crow. But I've never heard of her at all.
Okay.
But yeah, that's who's playing Shelley Webster. So yeah, I've never heard of her, but she's not an actress. She's a musician, she's a singer, but she's playing that role. So, don't get me wrong, I do like Bill Skarsgård. I do like him as an actor. He's a very good actor, especially when he was playing Pennywise. But I'm generally got my concerns for this film. I mean, I'm heavily against it, mate, because I'm a big fan of Brendan Lee in The Crow. It's a really, really iconic film.
Yep.
And I can't help but wonder if this is going to be a very low budget remake, because for a start, there has been issues with it. I mean, originally, Bill Scarsdale, he wasn't even attached to play Eric Draven. Originally, it was Jason Momoa. But for whatever reason, he was dropped or he walked out of the project. And then Skarsgård was announced to stay here. He was announced to be playing Eric Draven April of 2022. So, right, when did it actually start filming? Sorry, I'm just kind of curious here. Right, filming. So it started filming July 13th, 2022. Right. Okay. And then the film wrapped production September 2022. So it only filmed for like 3 months. And then, literally since then, for about a year, they were working on all of the special effects and post-credit stuff and all the stuff like that. So, who's directing and what's his backstory?
Hugh Lawrence, thanks for joining us. Certainly will.
Yeah, okay. John, they've literally got a practical newbie directing this film. Again, this is just not a good sign. The guy's called Rupert Sanders. He has just 2 films to his name and an episode on TV. So he directed Snow White and the Huntsman, 2012. He directed the live-action adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. And he directed 2 episodes on telly. One in 99, something of a series, a music video. And then in 2010, he was directing another music video. So he's directed 2 music videos. He's directed an episode of on a series called Foundation, whatever that is, and he's done 2 films, one which wasn't particularly great. I don't mind Snow White and the Huntsman, but yeah, so really, this really doesn't look good. I think this film's going to be terrible. I mean, they've barely shown anything of it. So far, I think there's like 3 pictures that have been released for the film. It's like the film's out in 3 months. Where's the trailer?
I think they're frantically trying to change things, maybe reshoots. I won't be surprised. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to see it. I've ever since
I think as if it even hits the cinema in the UK, because it's looking more and more like it might be more of an independent kind of film, and it might have a limited run in the US cinemas and then just go straight to digital.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I heard about this news about that film being remade, I was like, no, I'm not seeing it. I'm not going to see it, because to me, I think it tarnishes the work Brendan Lee did. How he portrayed that character, and he portrayed that character very well. That film is just brilliant. It's just a fucking gorgeous film. And yeah, it's just for me, even though I've got nothing against Bill Skarsgård, whatever his name is, I've got nothing against him, but it's just no. I'm actively against it. Yeah, I'm actively against. I mean, in any film that I know, I mean, the only time you need to reboot something, in my opinion, is if the original film wasn't very good.
Mm.
Then I can understand. But you're dealing with The Crow. That is literally one of the best films out there, and the last film that Brendan Lee was ever a part of, and he actually died during the making of it, and which makes me much less willing to see this reboot of The Crow, because that film is very much all about him, both personal and also playing the character. It's Brendan Lee all over. And you can't deny it because he's obviously the son of the legendary Bruce Lee, so you just can't deny it. But we've lost Alpha. Alpha's had to go, and so we'll just talk about a couple of things that he put in there. So Lawrence has gone as well. So he says, Alpha said before he went, he said, my favourite part of Ragnarok was when Hela says, tell me, brother, what are you the god of? And the drum beat starts. Absolutely epic. Oh, yes.
The soundtrack in Ragnarok is awesome. Everything about that film is just brilliant. It's like, where was all this in Thor 1? Like Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok is like the Thor film. Like everything in that film, from start to finish, is just brilliant. And it's just really bizarre. Like you've literally got 4 Thor films, and only one of them, with the third film, is actually any good. Like the first one, it just comes across as being a weak film, and there's too many errors in that film as well. Like there's that scene, like at least 2 or 3, at least twice in the first Thor film, you can literally see the boom mic. Like the second film's better. It's okay. It's better than the first one. Then the third one's just incredible. Then, as Alpha said, the fourth one isn't particularly great.
Yeah. Alpha says, I believe Cavill left The Witcher because they were going to do something big with him in the DCU. Then something happened with Black Adam. Yeah, Black Adam tanked. They cancelled it all. So Cavill, in a way,
it's a shame. Like Black Adam, if Black Adam had been released about 10 years earlier, right? If it had come out around about sort of 2014-ish, sort of at the height of sort of Marvel, the MCU and everything, I think it would have done really, really well, because Black Adam's not really a bad film. It's just, it's nothing new. Like, yeah, it's a good. It essentially is a good film. It's just nobody was really that interested because it was just another superhero film. It was just basically Black Adam's like, well, he's not really the evil, but he's like the anti-Shazam, effectively.
He's anti-hero.
So a lot of people weren't really that interested.
I mean, it's surprising because I would have thought nearly everything that Dwayne Johnson touches is like gold, isn't it? Yeah. And so that's everyone caught up with. Good. But yes, it is a sad day. With Akira passing, and it is indeed. But yeah,
I've been watching a lot of Team 4-Star recently. I watched the other night. I watched the Bardock, Father of Goku story, the film.
Yeah,
I love it. So that lands on the planet, which you always see in the story. It's basically planet Vegeta, the Saiyan planet, but long in the past, and he finds up fighting Chill, who is Lord Chill, who is the ancestor of Frieza. But I love the way they sort of pull it all off. Like when he first wakes up, it's like What? Where am I? It's like, don't worry, stranger. I healed you with my smooze. It's like, what? And then it's just like, and then afterwards, when he keep referring to him as, "All hail the violent savior!" And there's loads of talk about smooze. It's like, what is this smooze? It's like, thank you, doctor. You healed my syphilis with your smooze. What? Yeah, it's a good one. It's that particular film. The Bardock one's really good as well.
Oh yeah.
They just get Vegeta so on point in Team 4-Star. They really do. Yeah, I love when he's fighting semi-perfect Cell, and then I love it's like, what do you mean semi-perfect? You're either perfect or you're not me. She's just like, that's Vegeta through and through. And I love the way sort of him and Trunks interact a lot. That's really good. The Bardock film, especially, like what is it? Oh, you must be. What is it? You must be Princess Trunks. What? Actually, I'm. From now on, you must only refer to him as Princess Trunks. All hail Princess Trunks! It's just like, yes, you gotta love it. Team 4-Star did a really good job. It's fortunately they got a cease and desist. I believe they got about halfway into the Boo saga before they got a cease and desist.
Yeah, it had been going on for a while. I mean, even though they did the whole respect thing, like please.
Yeah, they said it every episode. This is a fan-based parody. Please obviously support the official release. Yeah, they did that in every episode.
They did that all the time, and the thing is, the Toei are very protective over the Dragon Ball franchise after what happened to Dragon Ball Evolution and a couple of other things. Toei have a reputation for being for being assholes, basically, and they've really kind of like look at that. What were they called? H something Productions something. They were.
Oh yeah, they were working on a live-action Dragon Ball fan film.
Yeah.
Was it Triple H Productions or Double H Productions or something like that? Yeah. They're still around. Bloody hell! I haven't even. Are they still around? Are they still doing anything on YouTube or anything? Because that's a name I've not heard of for a while.
Yes.
What are they up to these days?
I don't know. They are still around, but they're not really producing anything anymore. At least, I mean, after that whole thing with the Dragon Ball series and everything, they've pretty much gone under. Not gone under, but they're a lot quieter.
Oh, it was sort of like HH Productions, wasn't it?
It was H something.
Not H Productions, no. There's loads of stuff on. K&K Productions.
There we go.
That was it. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of stuff on YouTube for like fan stuff for obviously Dragon Ball Z. No, they're still around. But yeah, the last thing they did was a year ago. They don't seem to have done anything for a while. Hang on, let's see. There's a link here. The last sort of Dragon Ball bit they did was 5 years ago. They literally got sort of into it, like they were working on like 3-4 episodes. Yeah, I mean they're still around. The website's still active. There's a lot of information on here. they've got a lot of fan stuff. They've got some Batman fan films, a Cable fan film, a film called Accident Man, Hitman's Holiday, something called Survivors, the Dragon Ball Z that was obviously cancelled. So yeah, they've got a few like independent stuff going on, but they don't seem to have done anything. I know they've got the names to some actual proper feature films. They've done 2. They've got something called Survivors that came out in 2021, and then something called Accident Man, Hitman's Holiday, which I think came out a year or 2 after that, I think. So yeah, they've got 2 actual like proper films that have come out, but that was recently, so they've definitely been up to stuff. But yeah, it's a shame really, because you can find quite a lot of like really good fan film, Dragon Ball fan films on YouTube, but most of the time, if they try and do a series, they don't usually get very far. Like if it's like a one-off film, yeah, it tends to do all right. It'll get released, but yeah, it's yeah. Unfortunately, that was another fan project that was kind of buried.
Yeah, unfortunately. We've got Dragon Ball Evolution to blame for all that, because Dragon Ball Evolution.
Seriously, Evolution, man. Who the hell came up with the idea to make Goku a bloody high schooler?
No.
Well, probably somebody who thought we had to make it, what was it? We had to sort of make it relatable or something. It's like, mate, Dragon Ball, it's got a massive fan base. You don't have to make it relatable to an audience. Just do it as Dragon Ball. But yeah, do you remember the fact that it was going to have a sequel that I think was originally going to be called something like Dragon Ball Reborn or something, and it literally got greenlit and cancelled within the space of a day, which I found really funny that they literally were like, yeah, we might do a sequel followed by actually no, because the first film was such a box office failure. Like no, like it got leaked onto the internet, didn't it? Like the Evolution. Like the whole film just got leaked onto the internet, and the studio just did not give a shit because nobody bothered to go and see it. I mean, they knew it was going to be a failure, so nobody cared when it got leaked online, which I just found pretty funny. I mean, out of interest, like money-wise, what did it actually make any money, or nah? It didn't make a penny, which didn't really surprise me. The sad thing is, it quite literally destroyed certain actors' careers as well, like because of how bad it was and how annoyed it was. A lot of people literally had the careers destroyed, like through that film. I mean, if you look at the guy who played Goku, just an example, like he had some minor roles and things in various films. Then like his first film where he had like a primary character was Dragon Ball Evolution. Then after that, he sort of just appeared in a lot of short films, largely ones you've never heard of. Yeah, he's been in a few, but it's been very, minor, sort of short, independent stuff. Yeah, bloody hell. I don't know who came up with that idea.
No. It is unfortunate, really. I mean, we'll likely probably won't ever see it. I mean, to be honest, Dragon Ball. I think it could work. I mean, look at the Avatar series, Avatar: The Last Airbender. when that first got announced as a live action series, I was very, very obviously a lot of people were very like, oh dear, but it is actually very good. And the whole element thing and the whole projecting flames from the hands and the special effects, the special effects on it are brilliant. So, for that basis, it's just the thing is as well, it's casting, getting the right cast for the characters. The right person to play Goku, the right person to play Vegeta, etc. And they all have to be for Japanese. Well, there's a couple of characters that are not Japanese, but the main core cast, like Goku's family, Vegeta's family. I don't know. I mean, I think you could probably get away with Bulma being maybe different. I don't know. I mean, Bulma. It doesn't really sound very Japanese, does it, Bulma? The name Bulma. So it's just kind of like, I'm kind of wondering is that you could probably get away with Bulma being maybe I don't know, maybe not necessarily Japanese, maybe different. But obviously, mostly Goku, Vegeta will have to be Japanese cast. Master Roshi will have to be at least. Krillin. I think the androids you could probably make as probably not Japanese. Like 17 and 18, they look more Western in style and design, so you could probably get away with them not being Japanese or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it would be diverse if they did do it, but to be honest, I mean, it's looking interesting because they've announced a live action Naruto series that's happening. I don't know if it's a series or if it's a movie, but that's been greenlit. That has actually been in the work, been mentioned about for a long time, but that's happening. And the creator of Naruto is actively working alongside them with it. So I think the One Piece live action series has made certain people think about it. Because the Netflix One Piece series is very good. If you haven't seen it, it is very good. Very, very good close adaptation to what it is. I mean, I've not watched all of One Piece, but it's going to take me fucking forever to catch up on One Piece anime. But anyway, but it is very good, and it's because it's very good is because they actively worked alongside the creator of One Piece, and they also brought back the Japanese voice cast to dub over the actors as well, which was another win-win for them as well. So I think when that One Piece series came out, I think a lot of people that want to do live action adaptations to stuff are starting to really think about it. And like I say, you're going to get the odd adaptation that's not going to be very good. I mean, I think they need to do another take at Death Note. Maybe not at Netflix, but maybe someone else. I mean, Death Note's not a difficult film to make. It really is not a difficult film to make. It's understanding the politics and the reasonings behind everything, and it is quite a lot to take in because it's a type of series that you really have to pay attention to, both manga and also in anime because of what's going on. But it is relatively quite straightforward. I mean, the only special effects you're really going to need are the Shinigamis, which is Ryuk and everyone else, all the others. They're the only points in the film that you're going to have CGI. Everything else is pretty much just live action actors talking to each other. So One Piece Death Note is relatively quite straightforward. It's just understanding the story, and also how would they go about ending it, because you've got the manga ending, you've got the anime ending, and then if they did a live action film, I wouldn't be completely against them changing the ending a little bit, because it's kind of the way it went. Because like the manga, the ending in the manga was different to the ending in the anime. So you could, and also the live action Japanese films that they did as well. I think they went more for the anime ending more than the manga. I think so. But yes, we'll have to wait and see. But Naruto's going to be a bit of a task to make work. There's a lot of characters, you know, but it's doable. I mean, if they can certainly adapt Avatar: The Last Airbender the way they have, and the world that they're in and everything, they did a good job of all that. So Naruto's probably a piece of piss for them, really, but. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of there's a lot of side villains, and there's big main villains, and then there's a lot going on. Then there's a whole Sasuke and Naruto thing, and then the whole Sakura thing, and then all the backstories and everything. There's a lot involved in it. So wait and see, I guess. Well, man, I'm probably going to get going.
Okay.
We've been on for nearly 2 hours, so I'm probably going to get going and probably chill out for a bit, because I'm going to see if I can watch that Dune Part 1 tonight, because I haven't watched it yet. So it's on Netflix, so I'm going to probably watch that, and then
it's long.
I know it's a long.
Don't get me wrong, they're good, but just to warn you, it's a bit of a slow burn, that the Part 1. It takes a while to really sort of the story to kick off. Like the first 30 minutes are a bit stale because it's largely just a lot of characters talking about politics. So after that's sort of basically after the first 30 minutes, that's when everything gets interesting. So you're just going to have to sort of bear it for 30 minutes, because I'll admit, when I went to see it, the Part 1 at the cinema, I actually had to try and force myself to stay awake, because the first sort of 30 minutes are a bit boring, but they all set everything up for what happens sort of later on in the film. So just to warn you, it's a bit boring at the start.
Yeah. And at some point I might go and see Part 2, which I've heard is very good.
Very good. Part 3 is confirmed as well, so there is going to be a final part.
Okay. Well, yes, so I will get going. Thank you very much to Alpha and to Lawrence for joining us in the chat, and thanks to Sam for popping on last minute. It wasn't actually planned, but the whole thing with Akira Toriyama passing away, it seemed like a good opportunity to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, and talk about, all that and other things. But thank you so much for watching if you did, and take care of yourselves and enjoy your weekend. But until then, take care.
Take care, everyone. Right. I'll see you later, mate. Have a good time. Take care of yourself and enjoy Dune. Peace out, everyone.
See you soon.